Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Rajajanarandana Yashodanandana Rajajanarandana Yamuna Jaya Radha Madhava Jai Gopi Janavallabha Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Jai Gaura Hariva, Gaura Hariva, Hariva, Jai Gaura Hariva, Jai Gauranga, Jai Gauranga, Jayo, Jayo Gurudev, 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 Jayo Jai Om Vishnu Parvanamsa Parevrakacharya Stotra Sarshi Srimad. His Divine Grace is confound Acharya Vaishana Vinajaga Guru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jaya Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Vishnu Parvanamsa Parevrakacharya Stotra Sarshi Srimad. His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Thakur Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Namacharya Brahmacharya Shila Haridas Thakur Ki, Brahmsika Ho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasri Gaura Bhakta Vindai Ki, Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyama Kundara Kundgiri Govardhana Ki, Vrindavan Dham Ki, Mathura Dham Ki, Dwaraka Dham Ki, Jagannath Puri Dham Ki, Ganges Maya Ki, Chamuni Maya Ki, Bhakti Devi Ki, Tulasi Devi Ki, Smaveda Bhakti Vrinda Ki, Jai Gaur Premanandi, glories to some of the devotees, glories to some of the devotees, all glories, all glories, all glories to the beautiful lotus feet of Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Hare Krishna dear devotees, we warmly welcome everybody to today's session of our What's the Hell discourse. I'm describing the various types of hellish planets and what can actually take one to any of these kind of hellish planets. And the goal is to help us understand our actions and the consequences of our actions. So we wouldn't want to, I mean, to at a point of leaving this body, we'll be in this kind of hellish situation or condition. So the whole understanding is to have knowledge as to what will be some of the reactions or the kind of punishments that we're going to go through if we flounce the religious principles or we go against the laws of nature or dharma. And so it's not to put the goal is not to create any fear or panic, but it is to also help us appreciate the supremacy of God. I mean, the vastness of His creation, how the complexities of Krishna's, activities, how he kind of orchestrates everything so beautifully. So, we're going to begin today's verse, but first, I mean, offer some invocation prayers to our acharyas for their blessings in this regard. Narayana namaskritya narancheva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tajodayam mudiyat nasta praya svapadrisu nityam bhagavatu sevaya bhagavati utamasloke bhakti bhagavati nastiki om namo bhagavate vasudevaya om namo bhagavate vasudevaya om namo bhagavate vasudevaya Om Jnanam Triminandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshomalitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapalakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajevam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shivashakam Tamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Namami Hare Priye Vanchakapata Rupishakre Prasindrupiye Vachapatitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Srila Guru Ki Jai. So we're going to continue our reading from the fifth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, fifth canto, chapter 26, entitled "The Description of the Hellish Planets," continuing from text number 16. It's quite a long Sanskrit recitation, so we'll take it. Yastu viha raja rajo purusoba adi tatam pranatyati brahmaneva sarira dandam sa papiyan narake mutra sukara mukhe nipatati tatra iti palai vinispishyamana vayo yatai veheksu kanda arta Swarena swanayan kvachit murchita Kasmalam upakato yataiveha drista dosha uparudaha. Word for word translation. Yaha, anyone who. To, but. Iha, in this life. Vai, indeed. Raja, a king. Raja Purusha, a kinsman. Va, or. Adandye, unto one not punishable. Tadam, punishment. Pranayati, inflicts. Brahmane, unto a Brahmana. Va, or. Sarira dandam, corporal punishments. Saha, that person. King, or government officer. Papiyan, the most sinful. Narake, in the hell. Amutra, in the next life. Sukaramuke, name Sukara Mukha. Nipatati, falls down. Tatra, there. Atibalai, by very strong assistance of Yamaraj. Vinispisyamana, being crushed. Avayayaha, Avayavaha, the different parts of whose body. Yata, like. Eva, certainly. Iha, here. Iksukandaha, sugarcane. Artaswarena, with a pitiable sound. Swanayam, crying. Kwachit, sometimes. Muruchitaha, fainted. Kasmalam upagata, becoming illusioned. Yata, just like. Eva, indeed. Iha, here. Adristadosha, who is not at fault. Uparudaha, arrested for punishment. Translation. In his next life, a sinful king or governmental representative who punishes an innocent person, who inflicts corporal punishment upon a Brahmana, is taken by the Yamadutas to the hell named Sukaramukha, where the most powerful assistants of Yamaraj crush him exactly as one crushes sugarcane to squeeze out the juice. The sinful living entities cries very pitiably and faints just like an innocent man undergoing punishment. This is a result of punishing a faultless person. So this is the reward of one who punishes an innocent person by abusing his authority. I mean, in politics, they will say law enforcer. Law and what? Enforcer. He is supposed to enforce the law. By enforcing the law does not mean that you're going to abuse or force the law on people who are not actually going against the law. So, if one who is a political representative or political authority, or I mean a king, or president, or state official, whatever, if he punishes an innocent person because perhaps the person might have gone against his personal, I mean, interest or whatever, that person is going to be punished in this hell called Sukaramuka. And he's going to be crushed, just like when I don't know whether you've drank sugarcane juice before. You've seen how sugarcane, like in India, it's very common. It's the streets, I mean, drink. They'll put the sugarcane in one metal. It's like a, how do you put it, like a compressor. Then they will spin it and it crushes the cane, the sugar cane, and extracts the juice. So that's what is going to happen for such a person who punishes a faultless person. And the sinful living entity cries very pitiably and faints like an innocent man undergoing punishment. So you are going to faint, you are going to cry, you are going to, but it's not going to stop this kind of punishment. So text 17, which take the translation. By the arrangement of the Supreme Lord, low-grade living beings like bugs and mosquitoes suck the blood of human beings and other animals. Such insignificant creatures are unaware that their bites are painful to the human being. However, first-class human beings, Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas, are developed in consciousness, and therefore they know how painful it is to be killed. A human being endowed with knowledge certainly commits sin if he kills or torments insignificant creatures who have no discrimination. The Supreme Lord punishes such a man by putting him into the hell known as Andakupa, where he is attacked by all the bears, the beasts, reptiles, mosquitoes, lice, worms, flies, and other creatures he tormented during his life. They attack him from all sides, robbing him of pleasure of sleep. Unable to rest, he constantly wanders about the darkness. Thus, in Andakupa, his suffering is just like that of a creature in a lower species. So those who they are not really they are not really aware of the activity. They are only of impulse, not by feeling or so, I remember one time I was asking one person that I was telling the person that, when we say love your neighbor as thyself, we don't just mean the next human being close to you, but then all other living entities which are close to you, who you have access to. We have to help them, serve them, and be useful to them. And then he was quoting like, God has given us dominion over the animals and all those things. So they are not meant for our protection. They're not meant to be protected by us, but they are meant to be eaten, they are meant to be used as sports. People go to do hunting games where they put some bird or some whatever or some deer, then they will place a bet on who is going to kill the animal first and all that those kind of hunting games and all that. So for such persons, they are going to put in this kind of hell that they actually, I mean, kill animals who are not, they don't have any discriminative power to judge between what is right and what is not. So we should not be thinking that I can just I mean I remember when we were young, sometimes people will create a mud house with the sand, and then they will catch a what do you call this what's the name, mantis. Then they will put it inside and block it just to give pleasure. They'll see one bird. There's this common saying we say, killing two birds with one stone, right? But why can't we save two birds with one stone? Of course, it is not literal, but then we can say saving two birds with one stone. So sometimes we just feel like you have a tie, you feel like you want to you gauge one bird and just kill the bird or just throw the stone on the bed, or you see an ant crawling and you just want to you step on it just to show the ants that you are giant, you are superior to him and all that. So all these things are quite offensive because we should know that in this world, whenever anybody feels offended by any of our activities, there are going to be repercussions. Even if your purity, it's not like you actually done something wrong to the person, but then by your purity, somebody becomes offended, you are still going to incur some kind of some. There's going to be some anxiety which that person is going to try to send towards you. So we should be careful of activities, knowing that whatever we are doing, positive or negative, we are going to be accountable for it. And nobody it's not going to be shared like, oh, we did this together. So now we are going to suffer the hellish conditions. So therefore, let's share it 50-50. No, each one for himself, God for us all. Whatever activity we are doing, we are individually accountable to our actions and activities. So let's go to Srila Prabhupada's purport. From this very instructive verse, we learn that lower animals created by the laws of nature to disturb the human beings are not just subjected to punishment. Because the human beings have developed consciousness, however, he cannot do anything against the principles of Varna Shama Dharma without being condemned. Krishna states in Bhagavad Gita chapter 4 text 13, Chaturvanyam maya sristam guna karma vibhagasaha. According to the three modes of material nature, the work ascribed to them, the four divisions of human societies were created by men. Thus, all men should be divided into the four classes: Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishyas, and Sudras, and they should act according to their ordained regulations. They cannot deviate from their prescribed rules and regulations. One of these states um, that they should never trouble any animal, even those that disturb human beings. Although a tiger is not sinful if he attacks another animal and eats its flesh, but if a man with developed consciousness does so, he must be punished. In other words, a human being who does not use his developed consciousness but instead acts like an animal surely undergoes punishment in many different hells. So a human being should act like a human. Human beings should not be acting like an animal. The animals, they are not judged according to their activities because they are acting based on instincts. They are not acting based on knowledge. It is based on instincts. Therefore, they for them they just go up to the evolution ladder. But for human beings, our activities, our actions are measured according to the Shastra, according to the scriptures. So if they go contrary to the scriptural injunctions, then there is going to be punishment. So we should not be thinking that, oh, I am this, I am whatever power that I think I have, therefore I can abuse it, I can do whatever I want without being checked, without being, I mean, and animals are just meant for my enjoyment. I can just take any animal and eat, or disturb them, use them for experiments. These scientists, they will capture a lot of rats or sometimes monkeys and experiment on them. And sometimes it so happens like that hundreds of them will die just because they want to kind of, I mean, experiment on their scientific research. So you should not be thinking, oh, the scientists say, oh, of course, we're using it for the benefits of humanity. Therefore, it is justified. No, it isn't. It isn't. That is the deficiency of scientific knowledge, our so-called material scientific knowledge. But then with spiritual science, we don't need to undergo such kind of, mass slaughter before we can get something out of it. And even the vaccines that they produce out of it is only poison in the guise of nectar. It is only poisonous the most. But then they will tell us that is the antidote. But of course, sometimes some poisons are, some antidotes to a poison is also poison themselves. But then in this case, it is just an industrial, economic kind of uh, thing that they do to make wealth for themselves. So anybody who abuses any animal for his own sense gratification will definitely have to suffer this kind of hellish condition. 18. A person is considered to be no better than a crow if, after receiving some food, he does not divide it among guests, old men, and children, but simply eats it himself, or if he eats it without performing five kinds of sacrifices. After that, he is put into the most abominable hell known as Krimi Bhojana. In that hell is a lake of 100,000 yojanas, or 800,000 miles wide and filled with worms. He becomes a worm in that lake and feeds on the other worms there, who also feeds on him. Unless he atones for his actions before his death, such a sinful man remains in the hellish lake of Krimi Bhojana for as many years as there are yojanas in the width of that lake. So this is those who are mices when it comes to their food. There are people when they have their food, you don't go and mess with them. Like, there's a saying that chop time, no friend, right? But then when you have something, it is natural that we have to share. We have to be very lenient with what we have received. So people who have, who are very, very stringent, very hard-hearted with their food, this is the kind of hellish punishment that is going to await them. So let's read Srila Prabhupada's purpose. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita 3:13, Yagya sistasinaha santo muchyate sarva kilbisahai bhunjate te tvam twakam papa pachanti atma karanat. The devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food which is first offered for sacrifice. Others who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment verily eat only sin. So those who are eating only for sense gratification, they verily eat only sin. Because sometimes we may say, "Oh, I'm a vegetarian. I do not eat meat, or I do not do this. Therefore, I am superior to anybody. I am this and like that." But then the cows are also vegetarians, right? So what is the difference? So it is not just enough to call yourself a vegetarian, but then we should be prashadantarians in the sense that even if one is a vegetarian, the grains that we are cooking, the cereals that we are cooking, the whatever that we are having, all those things, they do not belong to us. Therefore, it is also called stealing. We are thieves. So do not think that when you are taking your fruits or you are taking the herbs and whatever, you are not also causing harm. Because those plants, those trees, they are also living entities, believe it or not. Therefore, by forcibly taking that which they have labored for, without rendering accounts or without offering it to the source, that is also classified as a criminal activity, punishable by the laws of material nature. Oh, yes. Because I know a lot of people sometimes, mostly those who are not vegetarians, they bring up this argument. So you people, you think you are holier than thou, you are this, you are not eating. But don't you think that these herbs, these plants, they are also living entities? Therefore, by taking them, you are also causing. And we say, yes, we do not deny that fact. And of course, we are not actually vegetarians. We only eat food which is offered with love and devotion to God. And it becomes prasad, or it becomes the Lord's mercy, or what you can call Holy Communion, something which is sanctified and which has become now edible or consumable. But any food which has not first been offered in sacrifice to God is not edible. It is actually poison. So one who eats such a food, it doesn't matter whether it's vegetarian, it doesn't matter whether it is fleshy, it doesn't matter whatever, whether it's sugary, whether it is salty, whatever kind of food it is. If it is not offered with love and devotion, with love and devotion to God, then Krishna says one is verily eating only sin. And therefore, when one eats like this, how would it be possible to actually give up sin? Because we are ingesting sin in our body. We are creating sin with our speech. We are creating sin with our actions, with our activities, even with our eating. So how then would it be possible to give up sin for life? It will become almost impossible. So as human beings, we try as much as possible to reduce our sinful life to the minimum, to the barest minimum, to a pulp. And if one is so fortunate to keep up with the practice, there will be a time where he will be acting on the level of akarma. Akarma means we will be acting but not acting. In a sense that we are not going to suffer, or we're not going to enjoy the residue or the returns of our activities. Why? Because on that level, we are only acting according to the injunctions of God. Therefore, even if there is any reaction to that activity, the Lord absorbs it himself. And that is what we call perfection of life. In the Bible, it says, "Be ye thou perfect as thy Father in heaven." But then you hear people say, man is not perfect. But then if man cannot be perfect, then how can we be perfect as thy Father in heaven? There is a possibility. It is not beyond. It is not something which is far-fetched. Of course, it's difficult. It comes with discipline. It comes with sacrifice. It comes with determination. But it is not impossible. Prabhupada will say, impossibility is a word found in a Fool's Dictionary. In the Fool's Dictionary. So, as humans, as we claim to be, we should be very mindful of our activities. That our eating habits should not impose or abuse or infringe upon the rights of other living entities. So Krishna continue, Prabhupada continue to quote the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, text 9. Yajna tat karmano nyatra lokoyam karma bandhana tat artam karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara. Work done as sacrifice for Vishnu, work done as sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, work binds one to this material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction. And in that way, you will always remain unattached and free from bondage. This is what we call perfect life. That one is living a life without any connection, any bondage, any reaction. Because so long as there is karma, so long as there is action which kind of justifies a corresponding reaction, there is a need for us to actually go through the process of samsara. We have to be born and die and born. We go through this reincarnation over and over and over again. But then if there is no karma or there's no reaction to our activities, then why would we be born again to enjoy the fruit of our activities or suffer the fruit of our activities? It means that we are done. Bas. There's nothing else. We are done with this material world. Therefore, we become an eligible candidate of the spiritual world. And this is not something which is impossible. It is. It is possible. That is why we're reading this now. For us to think that it is possible, we should be pessimistic. But being pessimistic does not also mean that being sentimental. Oh, I'm going to go. Therefore, whatever means necessary. Of course, yes. But then we should also be practicing according to the rules and regulations of the scriptures. It's not just a word of mouth that I feel like I want to go to the spiritual world. If you really feel, you act on it. Acting on it means that you're going to live your life following the injunctions of the scriptures. So it is not far-fetched. It is not impossible. It is possible. Srila Prabhupada said that if we live our life fully devoted to the scriptures, following the four regulatory principles, no meat eating, no illicit sex, no intoxication, no gambling, and chanting the 16 rounds of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra daily, associating with devotees, reading the scriptures, living our life in conformity with the scriptures. By so doing, it is certain, it is sure that one is going to get his visa to the spiritual world. Because on that stage, one has no affinity here to the material. It has not have any affection, no attachment. Whenever he thinks of any material things, his lips will feel that this taste, and he will spit it out. He will spit at that thought of sense gratification. And only when one gets to that point where one can actually go to the spiritual world and not turn back. But then if we think that there's still something back to look for, then we do not become an eligible candidate to the spiritual world. So Prabhupada continued, if we do not perform yajna and distribute prasadam to others, our lives are condemned. Therefore, in ISKCON, we have Sunday Love Feast program. Every time anybody comes for the Sunday program, the whole system is arranged perfectly by Srila Prabhupada. You have the ability to see the deities. You take darshan and see the deities. You take Mahaprasadam, your lips will be used to take the nectarian food which is offered with love and devotion to God. With your hands, you're going to clap in front of deities, dance in ecstasy. And with your words, you're going to glorify the names of the Lord. With your ears, you're going to hear about Krishna and nothing else but Krishna.